In the third episode, Creating Campaigns That Connect, Bob McCarthy, Director of Content Strategy at Square 2, will sit down with Square 2's campaign team and our client, PTO Exchange, to talk about how their big story translated into company results for their business. You'll get behind the curtain access to how they should be turning company big stories into campaign messaging and how that messaging needs to be executed to produce results like visitors to your website, leads, sales opportunities, and new customers. At the end of that episode, guess what? You're right. We have more special offers for you to take advantage of. So stay tuned till the end of episode 3.
Hey everyone, I'm Bob McCarthy, Director of Content Strategy at Square 2, and welcome to Creating Campaigns That Connect, another installment in our series, Your B2B Big Story, a missed opportunity and the missing piece to a revenue growth strategy. This must be a special episode because I've got not one, but two guests joining me to offer up pearls of wisdom today. Kay and Sam, why don't you introduce yourselves to the audience?
Sure, I'm K.A. Brightlow. I am a senior campaign growth strategist at Square 2 and excited to talk about campaigns today.
Awesome. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Lieberman, and I'm the marketing manager at PTO Exchange. I'm excited to talk with both of you guys today a little bit about messaging and campaigns. Should be fun.
The days of a simple 3-email campaign generating the attention and leads needed to achieve sustainable growth are gone. Today's complicated buyer journey demands comprehensive campaigns that combine synchronized strategy and orchestrated deployment. But because of their scale and scope, without something to hold them together, such campaigns can suffer from ineffective randomness. Strong messaging brings an engaging narrative, emotional connection, and needing cohesion to complex omni-channel campaigns. It can also serve as a valuable touchstone for you and your audience to return to, offering a seamless, familiar experience that sticks with prospects. So let's dig in. All right, Sam, K.A., what does a modern campaign look like, and how does that contrast with how most organizations might think of them in the recent past?
I would say the modern campaigns now, people have a higher expectation of having content and their experience tailored to them. So the message really needs to resonate and hit home. Additionally, a lot of campaigns are replacing a lot of sales activity. We've got less people in the field for most companies often. So we have to recreate the human aspect of it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I often think about when considering a modern campaign and how it is that maybe I would have looked at a campaign 2, 3, 5 years ago is that campaigns now are really running across multiple channels. Paid, email, you've got social, you've got your website, you've got content. It's really chaotic and hard to keep track of everything that's going on, not just for marketing people, but I think also for the audience that's getting in front of them. And so when you get a barrage of all these messages coming at you, it can really sort of be disorienting if there's not some sort of cohesion around it. It just sort of feels like a flurry of punches with no real purpose. Whereas a few years ago, it might have just been a campaign was, all right, let's write 3 emails about this product that we want to do, and they may or may not relate to each other, but we're going to hit these people and see what their response is.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think for a lot of companies, they struggle to be instantly recognizable. You could see them across different channels and not realize it's the same product coming at you in another angle because you can't connect them.
The other part that seems to be specific to B2B in many cases too is that the long cycle of campaigns. I think we used to think of them, even K.A., you and I worked together, we worked closely together. We used to think of them as something that was fairly short, maybe over the course of a month or two. And now we have conversations that are evolve around a year, 18 months. And so trying to come up with something that has legs, a campaign, like a single campaign that you can keep running, for a full year at a time and have it feel like a single campaign with a single purpose is pretty challenging.
Yeah, I think one thing our organization kind of falls into too is that the circumstances of the world and the economy also really change our messaging throughout. As you know, the world kind of experienced COVID, our messaging changed. As they're moving out of COVID and into an economic downturn, our messaging is changing again. So those longer form campaigns are great, but one thing I think a lot of marketers kind of let fall through the cracks is that you got to go and revisit those and update your messaging as things change in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think that flexibility and responsiveness, being a little bit nimble, as marketers, a certain segment of marketers are very, the strategy can become concrete. Here's our 12-month plan. And I think, as you correctly pointed out, Sam, like, it's a crazy world. What's going to happen a week and a half from now is anybody's guess, let alone 6 months from now. So the same content that you planned for months ago may not be nearly as relevant or what you want to push forward, down the line. And so being able to have that flexibility to revisit it and adjust it as needed is very important.
I think that's key. We see sales cycles that are 18 months to 2 years. So you also then have many personas that enter into that buying process and the campaign at separate points. So if you don't have a message that kind of ties all of that together, they're not going to be on the same page as they talk about you as well.
So that brings up a great point, which is, in thinking about the complexity and the longevity of what a modern campaign looks like, and we certainly just touched on it a little bit. Why then, or what is the value for campaigns to have messaging?
Yeah. Excuse me. I mean, the importance behind messaging in a campaign is to really, attract your prospect or visitor, right? And relate to them how your product or service is going to solve a problem that they're currently dealing with, right? And a lot of marketers, I think, maybe don't understand who their persona is, and then their messaging might not really speak to them and get them to realize that they have a problem, get them to understand that your product is a solution for them. And that's why really important tailored messaging to who you're speaking to, who your buyer persona is really important when you're executing a marketing campaign. And those campaigns, like we kind of talked about, are starting to permeate across channels that maybe we weren't using 5-10 years ago, right? You're having these long complex campaigns that are going from paid social to LinkedIn to email to your website, and if you're not resonating a message to your potential buyer, they're going to ignore you, and there's so much distractions too, so that if they find a message that's more tailored to them, you're going to fall to the bottom of the list.
Mm-hmm.
I think you bring up a number of great points, Sam. Messaging, the value of messaging within a campaign. There's multiple reasons why anytime you come with a campaign, you want to make sure you have some sort of message around it. I think the first one that you call out is, like, it's a really noisy environment out there, and having some sort of hook that grabs someone's attention, whether it be in the email inbox or an ad or on social, so that they actually take a second look, because they are being bombarded with all kinds of engagement out there. So something that has that hook, a strong message that resonates with them and makes them at least pause for a second, if not click, certainly has value. When thinking about the other one that I often come back to is, when you think about a long campaign, but even in a short campaign, it has value too. Your message provides that sort of single tone, those guardrails that, like, this is how we're going to talk about this for the next 6 months. It provides some consistency and cohesion, so everyone's sort of on the same page. A larger operation might have somebody running social media and somebody else running email and somebody else running content, and having a cohesive message to work around ensures that everyone is sort of on the same page and we're all talking about the same thing. And no matter how far off that conversation gets, I like to I like to think of it in terms of like a catchy song. Like your message is like that hook. It's that chorus that you continually come back to. Like I might take you off on this little journey, but I'm going to come back to this hook so that it continues to play at you a little bit and engage with you.
Mhm. I think on that note too, it's the way to stay memorable, but also differentiate yourself from the start. There's so many products out there now that aren't that different when you get into comparing features and benefits, and you don't want to just talk on commodity or price. So it's the one chance you get to get in front, tell your story. And I think too, with all the changes in the last few years, people really care about who they're working with. So your messaging is the chance to give your company and product some heart, soul, a personality. And that can be huge to get you out in front. And then also, so folks remember you. You've got that earworm,
Yeah. Kay, I think you bring up a good point. Our company is a B2B, SaaS platform. And in the industry of B2B SaaS, it's not very exciting or sexy when you're selling, a software tool that can, exchange your PTO or, keep customer data organized or anything like that. So it's really important, especially when you're in a B2B company, is to resonate that message on an emotional level, right? You really want to give your prospects or potential customers something that relates to the problems that they're experiencing in their business, something that they have struggled with, that they can really understand that you're there to help them, you're there to solve, and it makes it a little bit more personal rather than here's our features, here's our bells and whistles. I find that a lot of B2B SaaS marketers focus way too much on the features of their platform when the message shouldn't really be the features. The message should really be focused around how we're going to help your business be better, how we're going to help you have an easier day at work, along those lines, which are much more emotional rather than, we have a button that does this,
Exactly. It answers the what's in it for me and how will my life be improved. Yeah, I think that's spot on.
I want to discuss briefly, when we say messaging, people often think of the big brand message, and that certainly can be a campaign message. But do you think of when you're looking at a campaign message, a good campaign message, what are you looking for? What are the elements in your eyes that are a good campaign message?
I can answer that. That's an interesting question because I think it kind of differs between industry or type of company, right? If we're looking at like let's say a very large B2C brand, like, obviously one of the most iconic like brand messages or campaigns is Nike when they say just do it, right? Short and sweet, that motivating factor to get out there and be athletic and push yourself and drive to be better. And, Nike has all the gear and the best stuff to do you. But then that just do it messaging or mission statement, whatever you want to call it, kind of permeates throughout all of their different campaigns that they run at any different time. So I believe they had one that was like strive for greatness, right? So you can see how it's related, but it kind of changes the tone, changes the imagery, changes kind of maybe who the target market is. But I kind of look at those like B2C brands, those especially large, that they usually have some sort of like kind of main tagline or mission statement that kind of encompasses what they do. And then you can see how they tailor their messaging into specific campaigns throughout the year, throughout the decade, even. So
I like to think of them. I think Nike's a great example. I think of I think of great message for campaigns is taking on often one of two forms. One is that there's a big message that has just lots of layers into it, and Kay and I will often look at this as a top-lit message that has pillars leading into it, and it allows you, as you're running a campaign, to drill down into separate pillars along the way, really deconstruct your message to the individual parts that make up that top-level message, and it allows you to take it in several different directions so that you're not constantly repeating it. The other one is exactly what you mentioned with Nike and Just Do It, which is those that I mentioned the phrase earlier, those that have legs, like they are specific enough that they create an emotional connection or an intellectual connection or a humorous connection with you, but they are also kind of general enough that you can just spin them off in a million ways. If you think about Just Do It, it's very specific. Even just those three words. But the reason you're able to do it over years and years and years is sort of what you were alluding to, Sam, which is that it kind of evolves. I can put different people in front of it. I can put, and they have, from Jordan all the way up to Kobe. They did a one that focused on women. They did ones that focused on, like wheelchair athletes. So it's like, it has the ability to just keep going and going and going and evolve depending on the story that you want to tell around it, which I think is going to be interesting in a moment when we start talking a little bit around P2 Exchange and their campaign, because there's something similar going on with that one. Mm-hmm. All right, so we kind of already started going down this road. I always like to put some visuals behind what it is that we're talking about. And so Sam, share with us a campaign message that you're particularly fond of.
Yeah, sure. So I did a little research before this call and found out that the popular, social media app that everyone's talking about, TikTok, their, overarching messaging statement is, I saw it on TikTok, or I think it starts on TikTok, one form of the other. And I thought that was especially prevalent to our call today because it demonstrates a really, really, really precise understanding of their user base, right? So I'm a little bit younger, but I am on TikTok, and you see all those videos, you're scrolling through, and there's all kinds of crazy videos, but there is a large amount of kind of like helpful tips that say like, hey, here's how you're supposed to wear your travel pillow around your neck when you go thing. And I personally have experienced conversations with friends, with family, where I go, oh, I saw this on TikTok, right? I've said those words personally as a user, which I think is really cool because they have somehow understood that this is the way that people are kind of sharing, right? In this digital age where people are sending videos, they're on Instagram, they're on all these other apps. There's still this kind of personal human connection where people are talking with their friends and they go, oh, I saw it on TikTok. And it kind of creates that, oh, whoa, you saw this on TikTok. That's so cool. Like maybe I should be on TikTok. Maybe I should, see what's going on this app, right? And I just thought that was very just insightful to who their persona was, right? And they really captured. It's really short. It's really simple. It's not some complex, tailored, really like long, kind of crazy adjectives, whatever it is. Just I saw it on TikTok, but it really encapsulates exactly what the app is all about, of sharing, of user generated content, of all kinds of crazy tips, all kinds of crazy videos. And I just thought that was very prevalent, in today's age, and a really good use of messaging for their app.
It really works at a couple levels. One is that if you are already on TikTok, to see it clearly, I'm not on it. If you're not on TikTok, it works to be almost like a recruitment tool, because it does answer that question. It was just like, well, where did you see that? Whatever it may be, whether it's something that's crazy and out there or something very useful, like, here's this hack on how to tie a tie, very quickly. I saw it on TikTok. But I think it also taps into the community that's there as well. There's an insider's knowledge of that's right. That's how I use it. That's how you use it. And so it is sort of like this wink and a nod to everyone that does use it and what they use it for. It's become a very big source of information and a community as well. Cool.
Yeah, it adds a lot of substance to their content too. It's not just like a dance routine or something that we had, like a few years ago on TikTok. It's really evolved.
I think that's a good point, KA, where a lot of, I think, older generation people who might not have grown up with social media like this or video apps like that kind of view TikTok as like, oh, everyone's just kind of dancing on TikTok. Why should I be on this? But it kind of creates this value prop where, oh, there is actual useful information. There is useful content on there. And it also promotes, you know, their user base, right? Like the way they make money is user generated content. More people on the app means, you know, more revenue for them. So it kind of achieves both their goals of appealing to maybe a demographic that might not be interested in joining, as well as promoting people to join the app and create content for it. So
Right, like you might not realize you're interested in joining until you see what it has to offer. I think we're that mid-generation after where it's, I see TikTok once it's a reel on Instagram, I think.
What I'm hearing is that I've been holding out because I didn't want to show my sweet dance moves on TikTok, but
gotta get
from
on
what
there.
Yeah.
I'm understanding is that I don't have to. There's other things on there. It's not just me standing in my front yard doing some choreographed dance for the neighborhood to see. Good. You learn something new every day. KA, what's a campaign message that you are particularly fond of?
So I'm going to go with a very old classic that's still timeless.
Right. We didn't know Sam was going to drop this young hip TikTok thing. I'm acting like it's just from a couple years ago. So we're gonna show just how old we are by going back a couple of decades. Yeah.
Way back when all the TV shows had commercials between them.
You couldn't skip them. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, what would you do for a Klondike bar? And I love it because it establishes just how good that ice cream sandwich is going to be, because people will do anything, something ridiculous for it. But it's also got endless possibilities. You could make it attractive regionally. You could tie in a holiday. You could tie in a trend. It's just timeless. And there's no limit to what you can do. And I think that's partially, maybe might be some of my fandom on the execution side of something that has legs and can continue, but it's also like just done so well that your imagination, I think, as we were talking earlier, is your only limit with it.
Yeah, I think of something like the Klondike commercials, and you're right. What you can do with it, you're limited by your imagination, because it's interesting. It came about in an age prior to social media, but it's really the perfect social media type campaign, because you could engage with like any number of like, what would you do for a Klondike bar? And like the commercials themselves, you know, there would just be a series of them, and it was, you know, some silly or crazy thing that you would do for it. But truly at scale, you could come up with a bunch of different ads. You could a bunch of different takes on the extent you would go to have this, you know, chocolate covered ice cream sandwich. And so like you said, it had legs. And I think it's a great example because it leads us right into PTO Exchange, who I want to get into exactly what type of campaign Sam's been running with them, and sort of what the benefits are around that message. So, Sam, by way of introduction into the campaign, could you tell us a little bit about PTO Exchange, what it is and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the marketing manager for PTO Exchange, and we are a employee benefits solution that allows employees to self-direct a portion of their accrued vacation time into a variety of different causes or benefits that's more suited to their lifestyle, right? So depending on your company's PTO policy, if you have days that are going to expire, if they're not going to roll over, or if you just need some cash in a pinch, or if you'd like to save for retirement, pay off student loans, it's really just enabling a benefit that's offered pretty much universally in America. And it can be kind of more flexible for a multi-generational workforce, right? We talk a lot about how different aged employees use their vacation time differently. Millennials tend to take a lot of time off, where baby boomers are much more focused on, I'm in the office, I don't really need vacation time, right? So if that vacation time is going to expire for them, they should be able to use it in a way that see fit. So we offer the ability to exchange your PTO based on your pay rate to contribute to your 401k, to pay off your student loans. We have travel rewards, so you can get discounts on Priceline through us. All kinds of other different benefits. There's even more, and we're rolling out features, every couple months to really enable this, benefit that's offered pretty much to every company to go a little bit farther for the employee.
I think I love the business model. I found it so interesting the first time, I met the principals at PTO Exchange, and we were talking with them about what exactly it is that they do. And I think their original explanation was like, it was summarized into, well, if you have vacation time accrued at the end of the year, if you have PTO at the end of the year, you can cash it instead of it rolling over or losing it. We were like, oh, okay. And then we started doing this exercise, kind of like you were explaining there, Sam, about the different ways that you could do. Like, oh, so they're like, so there's really like 4 or 5 different ways you could do with it. And then you could see collectively all of our minds like working, like, no, it's really infinite. Like what you could do with it's infinite. And they're like, well, what do you mean? We're like, well, you're telling me getting like you can cash it out. I can get money for my PTO time, and you'll cut me a check, or the company will cut the employee a check. And like, yep. And we're like, but I could use that for like whatever I need, right? Like I could fix my car. I could buy my daughter a prom dress, or I could, and they were like, yeah. And we're like, and I think what we stumbled upon was exactly what you said, Sam, is like, it's this flexibility. Like there's so much flexibility. Yes, there are options that you have, if you want to put it towards retirement or travel or cashing out or putting it towards something that is, for good, if you're going to make a charitable donation. But even just with that option of, well, I need it for cash, like somebody might take it. And what does that turn into? It's, the anniversary dinner. It's like, it's infinite, like whatever you want it to be, that's what your PTO could become. And that ended up being the power of it, was like that, imagining what could be done with your PTO other than, with every other company's format for PTO is like, oh, I can take a day off, or I can roll it over into the next year, maybe. So it was really powerful. And I think it was really got our creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
All right. So Sam, it's a $1 million idea, maybe $1 billion, I don't know, inflation. But so it has what I consider to be, it's very unique. It's something that, I would certainly try to take advantage of. I think it's something that a lot of people would find attractive. And yet there are challenges with bringing PTO Exchange out into the world and getting more people to be aware of it and use it. And so what are a couple of the challenges that you face in trying to bring this out into the world?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest messaging challenge that we have, there's actually quite a few, but the biggest one that we have is that we kind of have 2 types of customers, right? We have new logos, new companies that are going to offer our platform as a benefit. That's one type of customer. And then the other type of customer are the employees or the users of the platform that are actually going to go in and exchange their vacation time for a variety of rewards, right? So the message that we send to companies is much different than the message that we send to users, right? So typically, our personas are finance executives, HR executives, total rewards executives, people who are kind of tuned into the employee benefits part of their organization or the financial part of their organization, right? And between those two, we have different messaging for those 2 people, right? Exactly. HR is very concerned about offering a better employee benefits package, increasing employee retention, increasing employee satisfaction. So we kind of pull on those heartstrings of, are you struggling with retention? Are you struggling to stand out from the crowd when you're hiring? Are you experiencing a large amount of turnover, right? Are employees, dissatisfied with some of their benefits? How can you make an existing PTO benefit or an existing employee benefit go a little bit further, right? You're already offering PTO for your employees. How can you make it go a little bit further without really adding any costs associated with it, right?
I think one of the interesting things that we had uncovered when starting to work with the PTO exchange team was you had mentioned the two sides of the business, and it said, well, on the corporate side, we've done a pretty good job of signing up some logos. We would like to run some marketing, if to message out to them around exactly what you said, Sam. Like, it's great for retention and it's great for recruitment. It's another way to think about this, how a modern company should be operating and should be thinking. And said, but really, one of our bigger challenges is reaching that user, that employee on the other end, and letting them know, all the ways in which they can use this benefit, the flexibility around it, because, Sam, you're not there at the point of contact when a company decides it's going to offer PTO exchange, and it might be the HR person that's sitting down and stating for this new employee, here's your health coverage, here is your fitness, here's your eye, here's your dental, you get X many days off a year. Oh yeah, by the way, there's also this program we run for a PTO exchange, and now here's your onboarding material. You don't have any control over the message that they're sending out to them or how they explain it. Oh, what's PTO exchange? If you don't have to use it or lose it, type thing. You can use it a number of different ways. Here's their URL if you want to go check it out. But and so we remember thinking like, oh, okay. And they were like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's when they cash in their time off that you realize a profit. That it's a transaction. So it's a very, very important part. It's like, yes, get the logo, but also get people to use it. And so there was really this thought of like, we need to get people involved and make them aware of how they can use it, the many ways that they can use it, and start telling stories around it. Okay, I think that starts to be where you come in a little bit of, you start working on this campaign, and I think I'm most interested in that end user one. Not that the logos aren't important, but in thinking about that flexibility and the storytelling, and what could be done with it. What was some of the thinking that went into play with the campaign for PTO exchange for the end users?
Sure. We walked into it, like you guys said, with the goal of, we need to get engagement because that's the only way it is a benefit for the user. And then it's also the only way for PTO exchange, that's your sales in a sense. So we really wanted something that could run long-term. A lot of people just think about PTO at the end of the year, and I think they won't realize they've got all these other themed options. There's tuition, back to school in August, there's family vacations, or just, you've got multi-generational workforces as well. You have people on the spectrum of, they'd like to max out some retirement, but then also you've got people that are like, if I could get tires, I could drive to work. You've got a whole spectrum of folks in there. So we wanted something that really was open. That way it could apply to everyone. And I think I have to admit, it's one of my most favorite campaigns I think we've done in the last year.
Yeah.
Creative on it.
We often have these huddles around, which are, I think when people think about marketing and messaging, they do think about like Mad Men and people sitting around a room, like throwing balls against the wall and just and crazy ideas. And this might have been as close to that as it gets with us. And I distinctly remember spitballing the idea around, it was a series of ideas that built off of each other and led to where we landed, which was this idea of, first it was, I think, I took my PTO and all I got was this, it was like that old t-shirt of like, I went to Fort Lauderdale and all I got was this t-shirt. And it was this idea of like, so that FOMO, that fear of missing out of like, I used my PTO and all I got was this day off, or, whatever it was like, and it was like somebody sitting at home. And then we started thinking like, haha, that's funny. and the evolution of that was, oh, but wait, what if it was postcards from all these great places, or these great, like these snapshots of all these things that, like, like kind of like this wish you were here, and it was like literally I was in Fort Lauderdale, and like that's because my PTO exchange aura got me there, or it was it was the your daughter's prom picture, and it was sort of like this wish you were here thing, and it evolved into this campaign, which was the postcard, greetings from PTO exchange, and what did you do? Where did your PTO take you? With like sort of this, each of the different options that Sam outlined for how you can use your PTO, retirement, or perhaps for health or cashing out, kind of looking like a stamp that you might see on your passport, and some Polaroids of people doing different things. And that was sort of sent out to the end users as a bit about an awareness, but really there was a point to it. What was the driving force of trying to send out these fun little postcards?
So our goal on the initial run of this is to gather testimonials. So honestly, to get basically postcards back from people. We wanted video or statements, pictures of what door, where did their PTO take them? Is it a cap and gown picture of someone going away to school, or is it Disneyland with everyone? So it was to solicit future kind of fuel for the next campaigns. But what's great, I think, with the stylistic of the campaign having kind of that timeless, retro, nostalgic traveler, like that can kind of live on with endless possibility. You can go anywhere sort of idea. So I think that can be used to continually gather, but I think also it can pivot just to ask the question, like where it can take you, and then show,
Yeah, 100%, Kay. We loved the postcard idea so much that we've repurposed it into an employee engagement campaign, and
I love it.
we have actually sent the postcards as a direct mail to one of our customers, as just a, hey, remember PTO exchange, you have this great benefit, make sure you log on, set up your account, and start exchanging. And our customer success, the team lead of the customer success is very finance focused. So he's like, this campaign better pay for itself, right? And when we put all these postcards, and we had to print like 2,000 postcards, and it was great. We saw a huge spike in user engagement once we sent it out, and big success on just getting more transactions to the platform, getting more people aware of the platform. So we've taken that postcard motif, that kind of message archetype, and kind of repurposed it so that we can use it in to gather these user testimonials, and also just to generate awareness to our current customers who are already
right. Because you guys have, it's just that multi-pronged goal of, you need awareness, you also need continual reminders to engage. And then you need the imagination part, not just aware that I have the benefit. How do I actually use it? And what could I use it for? So, that's exciting. I'm glad to see that it actually shipped too in its original format.
Yeah. It's one of those, it ties back to that, what would you do for a Klondike, or just do it, in a sense, because it does have, again, it has those legs, which, we did it in a travel theme, which might speak of luxury or whatever, but really it was around the idea of building awareness and trying to get people engaged, as you said, Sam, at different points of the year, to get them to understand that if your car breaks down, where did it get you? It got me to work because I got my car fixed. I could actually trade in one day off to get the brakes on my car fixed. I didn't have to take out extra money. I instead used one of my days off that I may or may not have, I may have had extra at the end of the year. And, I didn't have to use a credit card. I didn't have to touch cash that I didn't have. I was able to get it fixed. Or, it could be a summer campaign of like, where to take it. It took me into my backyard. We bought a new grill. We cashed in one day for a brand new grill, whatever it may be. It's like the there's infinite possibilities. You're limited by your imagination. All you need is a day off, which many people often have extra days off. And so this idea of like, should I just take this day off on a Wednesday? I don't really have anything to do. It's like, heck no. Put it towards your retirement, or put it towards your education, or buy yourself something, or use it for an emergency. Like there's so many iterative possibilities with it that you can just keep going and going and going and spark inspiration within your community. That it's really kind of cool. I think it lends itself to social as well. So there's many different channels it can go across. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I want to try and provide some practical guidance for the audience. So I'm going to ask each of you for your best tip as people out there think about going forward with their campaign messaging. So KA, when planning a campaign, what advice would you give to someone in terms of their thinking about messaging for a campaign?
For messaging, I would say that don't feel completely trapped by a brand message. A campaign doesn't have to explain everything to everyone unless it's a company awareness campaign. Your campaign should be targeting a specific persona, a specific goal, so you can have a hook and you can differentiate a little bit there. I mean, you should still tie back, but that, and I think just that B2B campaigns should be more fun and clever. I think people forget that aspect of it. Like, we're all going to work, we're all going to, have a job. Make it enjoyable. It doesn't have to be the most boring campaign in the world that checks all the boxes. You can still enjoy it.
I think the PTO Exchange example hits both of those. The postcard is not the brand message. If you go to their website, it's simply for the campaign. And also very fun, very yes, it's going to the end user, but it's still something that is part of a B2B company, and it's very fun and very energetic.
Yeah.
Sam, how about you? What's your expert tip for those thinking about campaign messaging?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I always try and kind of keep in the back of my mind as a marketer is strategy before tactics, right? So you really want to have your marketing strategy tailored in before you start executing specific tactics like a email campaign or something then. And your message is going to be, your kind of underlying foundation of your strategy, right? What are we trying to sell? How are we trying to sell it? How are we trying to connect emotionally with our prospects? So it's a really, really important foundation for a marketing team, and is really going to influence all the different things that you're going to do across. We talked about this before, across all different channels, right? And because of that, it's really important to remain timely with your message, right? It's not something that you're going to develop one day in a board meeting and be like, okay, we're done. Wipe our hands. We're never going to talk about this again. The world changes, the marketplace changes, your product changes, your team changes, all kinds of things within your business are going to change, and it's going to affect your message. So it's always important to kind of come back to that. How is it changing for this user base? How is it changing for this persona? So it's kind of an ongoing process as a marketer. And I think that's something sometimes people forget. So an important reminder.
Yeah.
Great stuff, guys. Well, I want to thank both of you for sitting down and chatting with me today. For everyone out there watching, don't forget to check out the other episodes in the B2B Big Story series. And don't forget, if you want to go deeper, you can access our messaging development framework to try and create your own message using these tips that these two experts just gave to you. And you can also sign up for a review of your messaging to identify where you're coming up short and how to improve your story. Okay, Sam, thanks again. Great stuff.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye.